Welcome to the latest podcast of Silicon Spice, where tech leaders share life's unique flavors. Today, we're joined by Matteo Palvarini. Do you want to wave hi?
Yeah, hi.
Today, Matteo is the Director of Engineering at Spring Health, an AI-powered mental health startup. And previously, he was also a founder for several startups and also an engineering manager at LinkedIn. So my first question, usually I'm very curious about your path, right? How did you get into engineering management, like the leadership level? Was that something you always set up your mind when you first started as a new grad?
Yeah. So, I started as a software engineer, most CS grads, and I did grad school in Chicago. And then when I was at LinkedIn, I think that's where I got the chance to step up into leadership roles. Typically, the way I see that happening for most people is at a certain point in your career, you'll feel like you have this spike for leadership.
Okay, so you have that aspiration. Okay.
I think it's something that organically you find yourself doing more and more of over time.
Yeah.
And I always like to clarify, I think the way I see, leadership and management are slightly different, actually pretty different things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think anyone can be a leader. I actually, a lot of times when I work with engineers at all levels, always encourage them to build out those leadership skills early on. So
True,
anyone
that's
can
true.
be a leader. I think for me, I was gravitating towards that leadership more and more very early in my career. And I think that helped me, move up in my IC career ladder in different companies and roles. And eventually I think it snowballed and became that, move towards management. But it really started from just a desire of just, thinking about the mission and the vision behind what you're working on. I think I've always really felt this passion for using technology for a purpose.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Playing a lot of that role of being the glue between the engineering team and PMs and designers, and spending a lot of time with users and customers, talking to them and really translating some of the technical challenges and problem and solutions back and forth between different stakeholders. And that is just, I think, a role and a capacity that you find yourself more and more wanting to do if you have that, draw towards a leadership role, which you can do again at any level, anytime as an IC. And I think a lot of successful staff plus engineers have that, strong leadership hat, even though they're not necessarily managers or, they don't want to be managers. So that's kind of where it started from. The way I think about leadership is, a lot of times spent thinking about, again, vision, strategy, long-term planning, how to carry the team along, how to define and build team culture.
Yeah, that's true. Culture is a big, yeah.
Spent a lot of time thinking about that, especially in the context of 0 to 1 and new teams and new products. I can talk more about that if you want. And also the, interpersonal relationship, emotional intelligence side of it. So how do you work with stakeholders, work with other team members, the broader company to get stuff done successfully and with influence? I think that's also a huge component of leadership. Yeah, and when I was at LinkedIn, what that meant is at a certain point, I literally reached out to 50 engineering managers across the company. I emailed them all and I asked them, what is the most exciting thing that you're working on? And I would love to be on a team that's building something new. And I was still a senior engineer. I talked to all of them. I literally found out every single product that was being built at the time or that was kind of come up on the horizon and, something new that was going to come up. Didn't immediately find the right fit of a few teams that, were just problems that I was less passionate about. But one of the managers that I talked to initially told me that he didn't have exactly the senior engineer role for me that was the right fit.
Okay.
But he called me back 2 weeks later and he told me that a sister team of theirs was going to start the LinkedIn's latest B2B SaaS offering, like a new product.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And through that, I ended up being one of the 2 founder engineers for this thing, and eventually the manager and the engineering manager for all of it. So
That's cool.
That was how I found the opportunity, knowing that I wanted to do that 0 to 1 opportunity in that leadership position that started as an IC and then eventually became a manager role.
So sounds like I think there are 2 things I heard. So number 1 is it is an organic path, right? So you started just want to be a really good engineer, and as you progress in your career, you realize there's like an organic drive that you want to kind of manage a team. Maybe you have a bigger picture. It's like, hey, what other things can I take on? And then you also reach out to these different teams and you took the steps yourself, right, to find the opportunities. And then you grow from there. The second thing I learned is that you mentioned, like, everybody could be a leader, right? No matter new grad or execs, but kind of you lead in your own way. So like people don't have to think, oh, I have to be a manager to be considered a leader. Like I think that's a good point. That these are two separate concepts.
Yeah.
That's actually a good segue to my second question, which I noticed, from your LinkedIn profile, you actually have kind of a domain shift, right? So you started, as a software engineer, you moved up at LinkedIn. So that's more on the professional services side. But then you went to kind of found your own startup that's meditation app. And then you co-found another company that's an AI-powered healthcare platform. And now you're director of engineering at this healthcare mental health startup. So how did you jump from, I've been helping people to get jobs at LinkedIn and then switch to a completely different domain? Was it very challenging for you at that time?
Yeah. So what my mental model for careers and in general, successful careers, I think it's always careers are non-linear, meaning you have to make some bets.
Yep,
And
that
a
is
lot
true.
of times they're going to be up and downs. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to change domain. You're going to change technology. You're going to change teams. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not going to work.
Right, yeah.
But the times when it's not going to work are probably the ones where you learn the most, right?
That is true, yeah.
And I think it does require a lot of jumping into the discomfort of making some of those choices and leaps of faith and just, decisions. Sometimes they're gut feeling based. Sometimes they're, hopefully informed by data or talking to people, getting, input and feedback. So in my case, I think, I'll talk about the differences, but also the commonalities between.
Yeah.
When I was at LinkedIn, I didn't mention, but I did start with another senior leader there, our mindfulness programs. So we have a whole corporate mindfulness and meditation set of programs at LinkedIn.
That was your interest.
That was my side hustle. When I was there.
So you already had some kind of foundation.
But that was something I spent a lot of effort on. We gave workshops and training and sessions to several thousand, employees in the few years that I was there and the rest of the team was there, and then kind of scaled them out across the company. And that gave me a lot of confidence about, not only, public speaking and a lot of those leadership skills and qualities that we talked about, but also the value of sitting down with the team and working on mindfulness, compassion, self-awareness, working with other people. All of these, some people call them soft skills, but in general, all those skills that are really helpful to navigate career, interpersonal relationships, eventually building companies. So all of that started at LinkedIn. It translated to me wanting to eventually leave big tech to do a startup experience. Ideally starting my own company in a space that I was passionate about, and I felt that draw towards the mission, which was more broadly the mindfulness, self-awareness, mental health space.
So that's your kind of your interest, where your interest lies.
And where I thought that, typically every time I think about starting new companies or new initiatives, I always think about where do I want to see the world, going towards? How am I aligned between my personal mission and values to what the future simulation of the world may look like? And in that case, the impetus was I ran into a co-founder who was a physician at Stanford, as a doctor, and we paired up to build this company. And that's how I took the leap of faith, jumped from that very good and successful role at LinkedIn and a lot of potential upside, and just left it all and took the leap of faith, and jumped into startups, and that was my first company, and did that for almost 3 years.
And then after that, you co-founded Curio, right?
So that was Curio,
that was Curio. So and then you decided maybe you want to have like a bigger team. That's when you joined Spring Health.
Yeah, so Curio was my first formal, venture-backed company. So we raised money from investors. We built out this software to support mental health providers and therapists and psychiatrists in supporting their patients with EHR and software for them. Eventually exited that company. Can tell you more about it. Partnered up with other founders of mental health companies and joined Spring to build this new team and business that we've been building for the last few months or year. So that was the natural evolution of some of the background in healthcare and mental health that I had been working on. And so that is kind of the continuous and the sequence of events that led me to be working at Spring. Obviously, the experiences are completely different and
type of I
can talk about the different types of scale and challenges that these different types of companies entail and look like.
Yeah. So basically, even though there is like a sharp turn on your LinkedIn profile from the company LinkedIn itself to, founding companies. But in reality, you actually kind of planted the seeds while you were at LinkedIn because you had the passion, you had the interest, and then you build up the skills that were probably very helpful when you decided to do on your own.
The way I think about it is, I think there's Reid Hoffman is one of the founders of LinkedIn. He
Yep.
talks about thinking of your career as almost like a startup. I think one of his books was The Startup of You.
Yeah, I read that.
I think
Yep.
every LinkedIn employee
Never-
that book.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is really true, which is can you model your career and the decisions and choices you make after that level of, again, betting on future that decisions that may go or not go well, but
Yeah.
they align you with the next role that you eventually want to have and see yourself having. So in my case, I knew that leaving LinkedIn, I wanted to work on more mission-driven projects that were aligned with my goals. If I were to define my personal, professional vision for myself is to build a more mindful and compassionate world or
Yeah.
companies. And so I knew that I wanted to do that. To do that, I knew to have a company founding experience, startup founding experience. And I knew that even if my first company wasn't as successful in the best outcome that I was looking for, that would have opened up so many doors and people to meet and knowledge and experiences that would have led me to my next opportunity, which is the one that I'm doing now. And so that was the kind of expected value that I attributed to me leaving LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I think what I hear, this is amazing because you kind of carve out your own path, right? You have a passion. You're very mission driven. You want to kind of do something in the healthcare mental health space. So that's why that's your side hustle, that's your passion, and then you build towards it. And then I would imagine, have you ever considered like, hey, this is really good. I learned a lot from the startup experience. Like, let me go back to big tech. Or maybe it's the other way. It's like, hey, once you realize you could be a lot more hands-on, a lot more scrappy in your own startup, or even currently at Spring Health, at a startup, you can almost feel like, okay, the big tech is a completely different world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are amazing big tech companies. I think LinkedIn at the time when I was there was, tremendous culture. I learned so much from them, the team, the mindfulness programs and people that I worked with. I do think that when you start a company, you get the bug and it's hard to go back.
Yeah, that's true.
You just want to do more. And the more failures and rejections and challenges you face, the more chip on the shoulder you have to do it again.
Okay, that's
which
true.
also means that, even for this role and potentially in the future, a lot of the people that want to work with you see value in you as having had that founder experience and having gone through the struggles that come with it, right?
Yeah.
I think that was very educational and instrumental, always open to, considering, especially I love doing 0 to 1, including within a big tech company. I think I did that at LinkedIn a couple of times. So if I were to go back, I would probably look for that.
That's what you crave for.
New 0 to 1 experience in a larger company.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense. Because I see a lot of my founder friends, I mean, they're not in there for the money because they really don't make much money, right? But they're in there to really like hands-on build stuff, right? You can get the changes really fast versus at a large corporations that you have like politics, you have all these like layers of approval, like getting alignment. But yeah, I could see that. I think startup world is different, but it's addicting, right? Like once you realize, oh, this is really powerful, that you can get hands-on building experience, it's kind of different to go back to a corporate. Yeah.
From I think you touched on financial consideration. I think it's, doing startups, it is a privilege.
Sure.
A lot of people working in big tech or in tech in general, they are financially very stable and rewarded, and it's great. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. So doing startups is, again, you're taking a lot of bets, you're making mistakes, you're taking huge salary cuts and leaving a lot on the table. The opportunity cost is very, very high. And again, I think you need to think about it from a perspective of, well, again, are you privileged, lucky enough to have the financial cushion and support to be able to afford doing it in the first place, or investors that back you, which, it's obviously we're super lucky to have that, especially in the Bay Area. And then the second one is, can you think about the financial upside in a much longer horizon? But also, again, I wouldn't do startups for that financial upside because the likelihood are very much against you. So that's definitely not the reason you should do it. I think it's always about, again, that vision that you have for the world and you feeding, being the right person that's qualified with your team to go after that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I think people come in for the ride, not for the financial upside, because as you said, probably 99% fail, right? At some point, there are so many unexpected factors. But yeah, that's really cool that kind of you get to be really kind of knee deep in the mental health care, like the mission that you love for. The next question is, I am curious, what does the typical day look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I'll start maybe slightly right before work. Ideal world, I'll do a meditation just to get it started.
Okay.
The reality is I've been working with companies and based in New York and people based in New York for the last few years. That makes it very, very hard because you wake up with a inflow
All
of
the messages,
notifications.
right? Sure.
So that's made it pretty hard.
Yeah.
So my meditation routine is later in the day today. So that's an ideal, but that's where we are. I'll have well, I'm very passionate about, as you can tell, health and wellness. I've
Mhm.
been, playing with continuous glucose monitors and understanding my body too. So I'll do a low glycemic breakfast.
Is that an Oura ring you're
This is an
wearing?
orange. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, you care about like health,
Uh,
like yeah,
yeah, just
yeah,
in general,
yeah.
I'm definitely a health and wellness nerd, and I like to, just educate myself more. And so that
Yeah.
one of those things that I did was to kind of understand how are my energy levels changing over the day, and how is a meal like breakfast, aligned with that. And that's where, I'll do I don't know, a breakfast bowl with only berries and yogurt and nuts and seeds.
Sure,
Flat, no glucose spikes, and helps with the rest of the day. So that's the breakfast and
Okay.
the thinking behind it. And then typically my day will be, well, I've been building this new team for the last 12 months. We started in a very small group of startup founders. Today I have a team of almost 20 engineers, and the broader team is 25. So things have changed over the 12 months very, very quickly, very, very fast. And the way I spend my time probably changes every 3 or 4 weeks. But today, I think, probably a third of the time will be spent with the team. I do have now managers reporting to me. Before I was the first-time manager of everyone. I'll spend time with the team. What I really care about is, again, that culture and the touch points with the team that reinforce throughout the week, the culture that we want to see
The
with the
team
team.
communication. Okay.
And so, for example, today's a Friday. The most important meeting for me, and I think the one that the team enjoys the most, is a Friday meeting that we do at 9 a.m. Pacific on Friday.
Okay.
We call it the Friday Forum, but it's a non-standard informal meeting with the entire team. So I'll have 20 people at least on the call,
Okay.
and we'll go through the room, through everyone. It'll take us even up to 45 minutes, doesn't matter. And we'll ask everyone to share recognition or celebration towards someone or a group of people on the team.
Okay.
And
That's nice.
typically that's very powerful because it highlights and calls out things that happen during the week that 80% of people wouldn't know about.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just inspirational for other people to observe and
Yeah.
get to see and know. And then the second question is, what is something that you learned this week that was useful for you to share with the team?
Oh.
And we'll typically hear all the way from work-related technical things to challenges working with vendors or stakeholders, all the way to coffee making and personal things.
That's awesome.
And then the third prompt, we typically have a wildcard prompt of the week that is either related to someone joining the team or a hobby or passion or something that's more fun to share. So that is the one kind of culture-focused meeting of the week
on the
that
Friday.
I
Yeah.
definitely always make time for.
Mhm.
And I think it's been very powerful to keep that consistent, energetic culture that's focused on reinforcing the behaviors and the values that we want to see on the team. And then typically before this meeting, I also offer an optional meditation with the team if people want, for just my team.
Gotcha.
For this specific team. Yeah. So that's Friday, and then the rest of the team obviously support the rest of the time supporting people on the team as needed. And then so that's a third of my time. The second third is probably spent on my director level responsibilities, working with the rest of the leadership at the company.
The peers
so I'll
level.
be
Okay.
working with other directors, VP, C-suite. Well, this is a new team, so I work directly with the founder of the company. So that's been exciting and impactful to work directly with the ultimate decision makers of a pretty mature, Series Z large company. And that probably takes at least a third of my time. And then the last third is in times where we hire, definitely spent on hiring.
The onboarding part. Okay.
Probably gave myself more than 200 interviews in the last year.
Wow.
So that's been a lot of effort to build a very successful 20 people team.
Yeah.
And then onboarding, supporting the team. Definitely hiring is a big one. Yeah. And hopefully focus time. So thinking about what is the upcoming projects, challenges, really big decisions that I have to make. I think going back to your initial questions about leadership and management, I think the biggest change going from IC to engineering manager or leadership is the type of decisions that you make. It's I think as an engineer you make a lot of decisions. They're very technical. Sometimes they're narrow. Sometimes they're larger, like platform or horizontal decisions. I think if you feel this draw towards leadership, it's most likely because you enjoy or you feel challenged and motivated by making a lot of high throughput decisions every single day. They're very consequential. Most of them are consequential. And they're not only technical, but they span all the way from who to work with, who to hire, how to do performance management, how to work with a vendor, how to work with stakeholders, how to de-risk future challenges that are coming for the team. So it's just a breadth of decisions that I think I enjoy as a generalist, because I like to have, to face that type of high throughput decision making that spans all throughout these different disciplines and different, domains every
Yeah.
single day, every day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like it's really cool because, I mean, as a product manager, sometimes I feel like my days are swapped by meetings. I have to really block like the precious focus time. But a lot of times it's like 9 to 5, just straight meetings, right? But as an engineering director, I like that you have time to carve out for team culture building, right? And then for your kind of peer communication. And the last one is like on yourself and then like mentoring the team and the onboarding. So yeah, so that's a really good balance. Yeah.
That's ideal.
Yeah.
A lot of meetings too. So I'll
That's true,
typically try to make focus time blocks for, if you're familiar with the polygram, builder time and manager time. I think that's the right philosophy. I think, finding focus time blocks is very important, and they need to be continuous and long for you to be able to be productive, especially when I still jump into the code base and think about the code and
That's cool.
sometimes, the
That's cool.
challenges. And so typically for me, that's most likely Wednesday afternoon, or I have a block during the week where I have those at least 3 or 4 hours to spend on it.
Okay, I love that you say you still dive into the code base, because there are people when they move up. I don't want to say they lost the touch of reality, but they could be too busy or overwhelmed with other things. They might not realize, oh, actually, sometimes I want to have some technical leadership, like on the architecture design, versus like it sounds like you're a very hands-on leader as well, right? You want to see kind of the overall direction, and then also see the bigger picture.
Well, if I can share a tip on this, or a trick, is just use AI. I think AI, especially with engineering management, has been the biggest change for this function of the last, in my whole career. I've been the sponsor of one of the AI coding editors tools at this company, and started from a pilot of 6 engineers last year to now I have 120 engineers using it every single day. But to this day, the most excited people that come to me and tell me about the use cases and the impact that the tool has had with them are even just the CTO or VP of engineering. And those are people that have very little time to jump in the code base, to have that block of 5 or 6 hours just thinking about the code. But they can be in a high-stakes meeting with a vendor or late at night and just ask a couple of questions, do a Q&A on the code base with AI, and really be pointed right away without needing to have an engineer on a call with them to the right place in the code base where they can start getting that level of answers and context, right? So that's been a very, very powerful tool just to ask open questions and be navigated around, patterns or challenges or just questions that you have about, especially larger code bases.
That's cool. Like for product manager, we use it for research and then synthesize kind of user feedback. Sometimes like PRD drafting. I never consider this like on the engineer leadership level, that you do want to understand, hey, how's the code base doing without getting too details, right? Or needing an extra person to kind of explain all this stuff.
Sometimes you want to, trust and verify people from the team. Sometimes you want to challenge the team. Something that they're working on. Sometimes you want to see if your prior assumptions or misconception about the code or what it does are true or not. That's the very first easy tool to ask to, and then obviously you may want to double check with your team as well. But it's been a very powerful tool for us, and I see a lot of adoption with especially Director Plus and EMs.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think similar things are happening at Stitch Fix as well. Like we're having this kind of wave of like AI adoption across different orgs to say, hey, what are some gaps we could fill? And then internally, we also kind of pilot every single month like different AI tools, and then evaluate, hey, is it something we want to keep and stuff? All right. Kind of now we're going to the more fun part of the interview. Since I work at Stitch Fix, actually I got the dress from Stitch Fix, and I have a bot from my stylist every other month. So it's my treat to myself. I'm curious that what is your favorite clothing brand? It sounds like you guys go to the office, right? It's a hybrid mode. So you do have to have that like face-to-face interaction as an engineer leader.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny question. Going back to decision making, I think I was successfully able to outsource most of my clothing decision making, and I'll tell you why. So 2 main points. Reasons. Well, one of them is I grew up in Italy for but all of my college and education was there, which obviously has a drastically different clothing and culture compared to Silicon Valley, especially the Bay Area. That was an interesting clash, coming to the US, and especially the Bay Area. But I do still have a custom tailor in my hometown. Very small shop. Sources is clothing items directly from the manufacturer, and they are not big brands. They are not branded at all. So I'll just go there once a year, and he's the one guy that I buy most of my stuff from. And
It's
that
like
is,
custom made.
it's not custom made, but
Well,
it's
okay, but tailored.
it's just simple tailored
Wow.
things that look good, and they're easy, and I have that one person just
Yeah, just
takes
go
care
to
of it.
Yeah,
So
nice.
that's one hack that I was able to find due
Okay.
to my my family and just upbringing being there. The second one is I do have a very very talented wife who studied fashion design
Okay.
and is
Advantage here,
a
yeah.
interior designer.
Wow.
Just very very talented and creative and successful. So most of the things that you'll see me wearing, especially at events or places where I speak or meet people, is most likely her choosing items for me and
Okay.
potentially using companies like yours or others to
Yeah, that's
to help
cool.
out. And so those two reasons are the reason why my decision making for this specific category has been winding down over time, and which it's good. I think gives me back
Yeah, your
energy to think
time.
about other things. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you're completely delegating, right? You have your annual shopping trip and also the wife kind of delegating on that like fashion choice. Nice. Do you have a specific brand if you feel like, oh, okay, I always wear this to work? There's a specific brand where it's more like it's a blend of all different things?
I would have to ask her honestly. I do know that there's apparently a comeback of Abercrombie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I think what I'm wearing this maybe.
I'm probably
I believe.
Yeah.
So that was the latest that I heard from her.
Okay.
Is that I am wearing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Nice. All right, the last question is a little spicy questions, right? So Spring Health, you guys are a mental health startup, right? How do you kind of build and support your team? Like how's it different, maybe from other startups, like how you build your support your team, have a good morale, have a good, even like just a mental health care for your team, for your employees.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned build and support.
Yeah,
so
right. Yeah.
maybe starting from building a team. So building a team, I think in healthcare in general, especially mental health, is slightly different than maybe other domains or places I've worked at. I think what it means is literally everyone on the team and at the company is the very first trait that you see in them is that everyone's mission driven.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
they work there because they want to make an impact of some kind in that industry.
Right. Yeah.
And so typically the people that we hire are going to be that person that has either a personal interest, has worked in healthcare before, has a family history of some challenge, or has just a passion for making an impact with technology and using technology to see again changing the world that they want to see. So one or more of the above of those reasons are really what drives and motivates all of us on this team and company to work at such a company, especially in a very competitive market like the Bay Area, where there's so many different options and companies that you can work at. So that is I think the one trait in the building phase that I see with all the engineers and general employees that come join a company like ours.
They already have the interest or background.
Prioritizing that in your recruiting or decision-making process for your next step in your career, doing these potentially above just other dimensions, specific technologies or areas that you want to work on or size of company. I think this one trait is the one that really everyone has in common. And then on the supporting side, I think there's a few unique things that we do and I try to do and the company does. Well, again, I have my own style and
for your
cultural
team.
meetings for the team that we like to use. The meditation is also one of them that I think is unique to just my background and things that I value and try to bring back to the team. Company, what I personally like to do is I believe in striking the balance, and I challenge myself to do that between building a profitable, successful, high impact, ambitious company and team. We are also giving priority to caring about the people, which is both the internal employees and the users and customers that we have.
Yeah.
Which I think for us looks like this balance between having those hard deadlines and goals and ambitious projects that we're launching all the time, and building this new team within 12 months and launching it to market, but also having that culture of caring while challenging each other constructively and finding the right balance there. Some of the tactical things that we do, the company has this month of August, we gave everyone 1 or 2 Fridays of mental health.
Okay. Just like take a break and.
The team has benefited and used, especially for their summer plans, and I think it's been very helpful. But to me, I think it's more the day-to-day, the behaviors, the cultural elements that you really embed in the habits of the team they really reinforce that more so than the one day off or
Right. That's
one.
true. That's true.
And so it goes back to those rituals that we have as a team. It goes back to the caring that everyone has when there's a on-call production issue where everyone understands the priorities of how important it is to jump on the issue and try to unblock the patient that has having issues or is being blocked with their care. So really giving that priority and value to supporting the user and the customer, especially empathizing with the type of product and journey that they're going through. This type of product for this type of product, it's important that we build the right type of experience that's supportive and that supports people along the way. And so that's, I think, something that people appreciate and we give a lot of emphasis on. And then I think all the other rituals that we have as a team, including well, at the engineering level, not a lot of, but increasing or tailoring the process to the size of the team. I think this team started as a very kind of scrappy, startup-y new team, very small number of people operating like a startup in the company, and then we're graduating to being a larger team with more formalized process. And so really, in my role, rethinking every couple of weeks or months, what do we need to change? Being open to incorporating new information as it comes back from the team and the market, and pivoting the way we run the team and the processes along the way. And things have, again, drastically changed in the last few months as things have evolved and new challenges and the team has grown.
Yeah, kind of related to this question. So usually startup employees burn out, right? There is like this hustle culture. There's also like kind of like a live or die kind of culture. It's like if you don't work hard enough, like 996, whatever, your startup's not gonna make it, right? So there's like a burnout trend. But for you guys, how do you kind of prevent that? So it sounds like the employees already have kind of prioritization to care about the mental health space. They have the toolkits, they have the support. But how do you care about like kind of the burnout in general when your customers are also, sometimes it could be like, I don't want to say life-threatening, but it could be a pretty serious situation, right? You have to resolve all those issues in a really quick, timely manner.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the work that I do is obviously, as a startup, there's a lot of pressure at all levels of the company, from the executive team, director level, all throughout the company. The level of challenges and asks of the team at all levels, are very high.
Yeah.
Which also means that one of my jobs and responsibilities, and one of the chunks of time that I use and I focus on this, is shielding the team from a lot of, or some of the pressure that come from.
Oh, that's true.
From
Yeah.
above, right? So,
that makes sense.
So what that would mean is, if we're doing road mapping or planning and things come up and there's other market feedback on a certain item, we'll, me and the rest of the leadership team will, really spend a lot of cycles prioritizing that, iterating on that, and then bringing back to the team clear, transparent, actionable feedback, but in a way that maybe feels less overwhelming than if it was coming directly to them from directly the stakeholder of the company or the leader of the company that wants to see that feature or that product built. And so some of that shielding, protection, translation, I think it's part of the job at my level, and it's important while really keeping that transparency and openness with the team so that they really feel that they're brought along and they are connected to the rest of the leadership team. So so that's, I think it's a balance that you just have to learn how to navigate. But I think the shielding and protecting the team is important to let them focus on the right things. And a lot of times, I think especially when you get senior enough in your career, you know that your success and impact, it doesn't really correlate to the sheer number of hours that you put.
That's true. Efficiency also matters.
Ideally, you can find ways to keep yourself and the team accountable on timelines and goals and big ambitious milestones that doesn't necessarily result in burnout or crazy number of hours. And I think that's something that you learn along the way. And know how to spend and protect your time. And again, that goes back to some of the work that I try to do, shielding the team from protecting their focus time.
Okay. Yeah. So that's amazing. So it sounds like as a leader in the engineering space, you do have to kind of have your chunk of like the homework kind of things that you kind of protect your team, making sure they don't feel like all the pressure from the executive team, but then also be reasonable that they are included in a lot of in some of these like roadmap discussions.
And a lot of time, I'll give them the opportunity to be on a call with
Yeah.
our C-suite and, be pitching, talking to them directly, which is exciting, but, it probably shouldn't be every day.
Right, yeah, it's true, it's true, yeah.
And I think, highlighting what those key moments and opportunities for them are, but also keeping that level of, focus and protection, I think is important for the team to really focus on what they can do best and what they enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's true. And then I like how you talked about, like, the hours matter, but at some point you have to care about your, like, mental health, like how sustainable this is, right?
Mhm.
Because the reason I'm asking is that I see those, like, LinkedIn posts, like, people are hiring, like, hey, you could, like, sleep in the office,
Mm.
I feel like for young grads, maybe
Mm.
if that's a way of working, but it does
Mm.
not feel sustainable to me, right?
Mhm.
So the company, the leaders or exec, they have to set the direction. Like, what is the boundary
Mm.
here, right? How do we say we work hard, but we also want to work hard in a sustainable way versus everybody sleeping in the office until 3 a.m. or
Mhm.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I've never directly, promoted or experienced even, the tents of the office or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I do think, growing up in your career, there are going to be times or a few days where you're going to be pushing more and learning
Mm-hmm.
from that experience and challenging yourself. And that's totally fine. I don't think that should be, a crazy amount of sustained effort that you're going to, physically and somatically feel on your body. You'll be
True.
doing it for many, many months.
Yeah.
I don't think that's sustainable and useful. But yeah, I think, those pushes before a deadline or timeline or just learning from it, I think we've all done and gone through. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's, to some extent, it's a healthy learning experience. I don't think it's, should be the norm at any given time or
Yeah.
sustainable for the long run.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just like finding a way that's reasonable and having the boundaries, clear boundaries.
And also like
Yeah.
learning as you work with the team and understand the priorities, and hopefully your leadership team is able to help you understand what the priorities are.
Mm.
You're gonna know when those times come where you should stay up at night and help resolve the issue or unblock the patient, or really show that you have ownership and drive and motivation to be there when the team needs it. And that is the time where spending the extra hours really makes sense. And I think knowing when those times come and are is a very important and helpful skill to have.
Yeah, that is a skill, like knowing where to put your hours and effort in versus just doing this all the time and then realize, okay, things might not work out.
Mhm.
All right, these are all the questions I have. Thank you so much, Matteo.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye.